My name is Bashir Maan, and this is my story of the Colourful Heritage project. I was born in a village called Maan. It was a small village, in a rural area, about 8 miles from the major town, which was Gujranwala, and that is about 40 miles northeast of Lahore. As a student, I joined the Muslim Students Federation and became a member of the executive committee in my college, and thus became very active in its activities for the campaign for Pakistan. There was a lot of work to be done concerning the Pakistan movement, because in the cities, not even in the cities, very many people knew about Muslim League and its agenda. We went into the villages, tried to talk to the people, to explain to them what would be the Pakistan, what's the purpose behind creating the Pakistan, and what would happen if we do not create Pakistan, a separate country for ourselves. So these things worked, and eventually we succeeded in bringing a lot of people in the support of Muslim League. And when the elections were held, the Muslim League won the elections with a huge majority. Once we had succeeded in obtaining Pakistan, achieving Pakistan, the next thing was the refugees, because the migration of the population started. Mostly Muslims coming from India and Hindus and Sikhs leaving Pakistan. I personally, in my own area, had set up a kind of a group. First of all, to collect all the things which the Hindus and Sikhs were leaving in their houses, and to protect their houses as they were, so that when the refugees come from Pakistan, India, we can settle them in these houses. I mean, one boy came in our village. He had a very hoarse voice, and he always wore a collar with the high collar with the kind of button shut. One day I asked him, what happened? He said, well, we were hiding in a house, and the Sikhs came with their swords, and with their guns. And we were 2 people in that house, and it was the house of an old lady and her family. Most of the people were out of the house, but one child of 4 or 5 years in the house, and that old lady was in the house. So they first went to the lady and to shoot her and the boy. She got the boy under her and she laid down on the ground. So from the top they shot her. And when they saw that she is dead, then they put her aside and shot the kid. Then he says, then they turned towards me, I was standing, and they shot me here. And I fell. And there was so much blood that they thought I'm dead, and they left. But after a couple of hours, I came to my senses, and I got up and tried to hide somewhere. That's how I was saved, and that's why. And fortunately, my wound was treated, and I I was saved. So this is the kind of, just one example. There are very many like this. One day, I went to a town, and over there in the train, I saw a kind of a carriage of the train with a lot of blood. I found out that this has come from India, who had killed people in it. So I became so, how should I say, affected by it. And at that time, the Hindus and Sikhs were still in our village. They had not left yet. It was just a couple of months after the partition. And I had my cousin with me. And I said to him, right, when we go to our village, the first thing we do is kill all the Hindus and Sikhs. He said, how can you do it? We have lived with them. We play with them. They were classmates. I said, you will see. Anyway, when we came to the village, that day another tragedy had happened. A group of Hindus and Sikhs were leaving and going, passing our village and going to another destination where they were all gathering. And the people came from the village on the other side of our village and started shooting at them. And they killed about 7 or 8, and the rest ran away or whatever happened. So, and one of them who was killed there was a very good friend of mine, a Sikh. During my college day, he was a very, very good friend, a real friend. So when I came home, first of all, because it had happened next to our village, so the Hindus and Sikhs living in our village were very affected by it. They didn't know what's going to happen to them next, naturally. So when people saw, and the people were very concerned about us when we didn't come back for 2 or 3 days, thinking that maybe they have been caught somewhere or got killed or whatever it is. But when we came in the evening, the people saw us from it was summer, and during those days, in the summer, in the evenings, people all used to be on their roofs. We used to sleep on the roof in the summer because there was no electricity, no central heating or anything like. So people were on their roofs and they saw us. And the village whole started saying, oh, they are here, they have come back, they have come back. And people are shouting at my mother, congratulations, congratulations, things like that. They've come, they've survived, they've come back. Anyway, and the Hindus and Sikhs heard too, so they ran out also. And when I saw their condition, they were pale, trembling, and I just could not, do what I had determined to do. They came and tried to kind of hug me, and I couldn't push them away. I started hugging them and crying myself. My younger brother joined the Navy, Pakistan Navy. And about 6 months later, he joined in, I think, 1949 or 50. And 6 months later, he was selected for higher education in England. So he came over here. The first couple of years, he was, because he was in the Navy, he was in the Naval Headquarters at Plymouth. And then he came to Rosyth. And from Rosyth, one day he came to Glasgow. And there in the street, he met 2 Pakistanis. And wrote to them that I want to come over. They said, yes, you can come over, but if you will do us a favor also. I said, what? One of their relatives wanted to come here, and he couldn't come, he couldn't get his passport. They said, bring him like as a servant, because you are a landed person, You can say to the people, authorities, that I'm going to take him as a cook or as a servant or something, and they will allow you. Okay? So I brought him with me. So I stayed with them for the first couple of months. When I came here and when I saw the state the community was in, there were 95% of them illiterate, only 5% of them knowing Urdu, not very much English either. There I think only 1% who knew a little bit of English. This was the state. And there are so many problems. Racism, getting the licenses and not able to communicate, getting any problem with the city council, not able to communicate, writing letters, reading letters, needed help. So actually I came to study. And I joined the Polytechnical College, which is now the Strathclyde University. I joined here, but I got so involved in helping the people that I left my studies and joined the community. That's how it happened. Racism was the major problem. And then the help required by most of the members of the community. So I got so involved that from there, but I think that was my, should I say, work which introduced me to local politics. Because to help my people, I had to build relationships with the local politicians, councillors, MP of the area, and the bureaucrats, and the police also. And that work, and the social work, the community work, prepared me for the politics. We had a lot of trouble from the neighbors, and because Garwal was an area where there was a lot of crime, our people always came home early, on the weekends particularly, and never went out unless it was necessary. Because whenever somebody went out, he was robbed. If somebody came late from his rounds, naturally his case was taken away. If you were making any noise, if some people then brought over some Indian Pakistani records, if they're playing records and the neighbors heard a wee bit, there were bangs on your door. Stop this bloody music. It's giving us headaches. Similarly, if your windows were open in summer and you were cooking, my God, you had hell from your neighbors. We can't live with this bloody smell. The same smell which are now running after. One day, I think it was the year I came here, 1953, July probably, June or July, myself and two of my friends were standing at a corner. It was nice sunshine, standing there, enjoying the sunshine. And a police constable, a sergeant and a constable were seen coming towards us. And one of my friends says, let's move. I said, why? The police is coming up. I said, but we're not doing anything. You're just standing here without doing any harm, or without even, trying to block any person's way or something. Why should we move away? We said, well, all right. He just, lifted his shoulders. So when the police was about, say, up 10 feet from, 15 feet from us, the sergeant says, move, you black bastards. I hate them. Naturally, I was going to say why, and my, friend in Punjabi said, pagal na bano, kar lega tenu, charge kar lega. I mean, he will charge you. So anyway, we moved. And when I became the chairman of the police committee in Glasgow Committee first in 1973, there was a police dinner, and I was invited as speaker. So I related this incident, and they couldn't look up. Everybody went down, and the faces red. When we were out, even in the streets, we went to a shop and we were looking for something. The shopkeeper said, yes, Johnny, what can I do for you? That's where our face, but behind us we were darkies. In the countryside, when we went for peddling, the kids will shout Johnny, and so would be our customers call us Johnny, because probably most of them, because they couldn't pronounce our names, or they couldn't remember our names. I did the peddling for about started in 1953, yes, but 14 years, yes. In 1967, my friend Yaqub, he was in this liquor business. He had opened a shop in Motherwell. He had left Glasgow and gone to Motherwell. And he came to me one day, he says, listen, this is a shop in Glasgow. It's a good shop. We should buy it. You should be in charge of it. I try to tell myself, I don't want to go into this business because this is against our, we should say, religion. But he kind of persuaded me, oh, we have got to sell to others, we're not going to drink it, we're not going to go sell to Muslims, things like that. And anyway, let's make it offer for the shop. We might not get it. I said, all right. So we made the offer was accepted. So we were in it. That's how I started that business. But that business became so successful. But the ideas were, Yaqub, I wasn't a good businessman. I was a good social worker, community worker, but not a good businessman. He was uneducated, nearly illiterate, but a very good businessman. He had started this cut price business. That's how he had succeeded. So when we opened the Glasgow shop, we had to call police the first few days to control the queues because, we couldn't deal with it. And at that time, we were not very religious. When we would come here, there were no facilities for practicing your religion. And most of them had forgotten their religion. I remember when I started praying again, I remember one day I was walking in the street. It was a Friday prayer time. It was Friday. It was prayer time, and I was walking in Oxford Street where our first mosque used to be, on a one-up hall, in a one-up hall, and a man was coming up, an older generation people who had come in the 30s, I think probably. He was going upstairs to the mosque. He stopped me there and he said, young man, I was passing by. Young man, you have become our leader, all right, but you should also not forget your religion. You should come up also sometimes, Friday prayers at least. I said, not today, but from next Friday I will. And I kept that promise. From that day, and when I started praying the first time, I had forgotten half of my prayers because it was about, 10, 15 years since I haven't repeated them. That was the condition with all of us, most of us, because we were in a different atmosphere. There were no compulsions, no examples that people are praying or things like that. In 67 or 68, I was made a JP, Justice of the Peace. Again, first ever, people were surprised. It was, I think, if you could have seen the scene that day, all the paper and the billboards, outside the newspapers. First colored person, JP. First colored person, JP. These were the headlines. Anyway, so that gave me a further boost, in my career. And just soon after that, the secretary of the trade union, transport trade union, came to me. He had friends in Pakistani because they were all conductors and drivers and by that time. And he asked them about me, and they told him he's a nice fellow and this and that, helps the community. I was already in the Labour Party. And this fellow comes and says, you should join a union. I said, what's the use of it? He says, I think you should stand for the council, and if you were standing there, you need all the help, not only from the local member, of the union member. So he persuaded me and joined it. I said, I'm not going to stand for anything yet, but I'll join the trade union. So I joined it, the transport trade union. And he kept pestering me, kept kind of persuading me. Eventually, I think after a year or so, I gave in. One day, I got an invitation from Kingston Board that they had selected me, and they had shortlisted me for their candidate. I was surprised. Anyway, I went up there, and to my total bewilderment, they selected me as their candidate. I had a word after that, the chairman of the party who was there. And I said, well, what did you see in me? He said, well, we've seen you in business, we've seen you on television, we think you're a good man. We don't care what's your color, what's your religion. We want a good man here. All right, I said, well, thank you for your confidence in me. But he said, but remember, don't think you'll win this seat. This will be your training ground. Because the Labour candidates before you have been very important people, well-known people in the community, and they've lost. So therefore, I'm warning you, don't build your hopes and get too much disappointment. We will do whatever we can, but no chances. I said, all right. We used to go out in the evening for about, we started about 25 days before the election. And we went out every night from 6 to 8. And so we tried to cover the whole board. And probably we did most of it. But I could only cover certain because, I was one of the 5 teams. I probably covered about, say, 1/5 or 1/4 of the houses in my ward. So the election day came. And the funny thing was, wherever I went, except 1 or 2 exceptions, when I knocked the door and people come out, I said, well, oh yes, we know you, we've seen you on television. We've seen you, read you about in the paper. And that was which went in my favor. People knew me. At one polling station, I met a gentleman who says to me, oh, so you are Mr. Maan? I say, yes. He says, I am the agent of so-and-so who was, my opponent, who was sitting councillor. He was Tory party. But by the way, we were 4 candidates, a Tory, myself from the Labour, an SNP, and a communist. So he says, well, so you are Mr. Maan, right. I think you'll get about 30 votes. I said, what do you mean? He says, yes, you'll get 30 votes. I said, okay, we'll see. I just said, I didn't mind it. I said, we'll see in the evening. So after some time, it dawned on me, why he says 30? Then I realized there were only about 30 ethnic minority votes in this area. That's what he was pointing to. Anyway, when in the evening, the polls, when they started counting the polls, my pile began going up and up and up. My chief opponent, he and his wife were standing also there next to me, and where the polling was being counted, the votes were being counted. When his wife saw that, she started crying, and she went away. He stood there, but she went away. Anyway, when the result was announced, I polled 56% of the total vote cast, and the other 3 candidates, 46 among them. That was the kind of response a coloured person, at the time the term was coloured, the people of that area gave to a coloured people. And that shows you that Scottish people in general are not racist. They're understanding, they are friendly. If they think a man is fit for the job, they will give him a shot. I was the first ever Muslim elected to any office in this country. It was strange for the whole country, the people from England looking forward, what has happened, what a kind of boost to our community. As I was the first one, the odd one, all the eyes were at me. And I knew if I made a mistake, if I did say a wrong word, there would be headlines. Because the press was still not kind of used to having a coloured person as one of the city representatives. So they were always looking for faults. that makes me a little bit inhibitive, more cautious in saying things. Today I can talk about my mind because I know now things are different. It's not the same. It's not. That was 40 years ago. Now things have changed. I think my advice is that if we have to live in this country, we have got to live with these people. We've got to understand them, and we have got to make them understand us. That's the only way we can be good neighbors to each other, good companions to each other, good workers to each other.